Welcome back to another Java tutorial. This is lesson 3 and we are going to talk about control flow. So this will cover the conditional statements and the loops. Usually the loops will be their own episode, but since the if statements are really short, I decided to combine the two together. So this will be sort of a long video, but hopefully we can get through everything in a reasonable amount of time. I don't want to keep you for too long, but we will get started here. So we're gonna head on over to Eclipse here. This is from last time where we explored all the primitive types. So we are just gonna erase this. If you want to look at these comments, please watch my last video. It would be lesson 2. So now we are back in this main function. We're going to talk about functions in the next episode, but so far we are still going to use this main function to run all our code. So we are going to talk about if statements first, and if statements are pretty simple. So you want to type something like if, and then parentheses, if 5 equals 5, which it does, then system.out.println, it does. So we are going to check here. It does. So let us run this here. As you can see, it should say it does, and it does. But obviously it is not suggested. That's why Eclipse highlighted, but this is for the sake of demonstration. In real life Java, you wouldn't just compare two identical things. But notice how this is double equals. Now this is comparison, because if you remove this, it'll become assignment. What you're saying, you're assigning 5 to 5, which doesn't make sense because 5 is already equal to 5. So we want to type both equals, and that will output true. So it's also the equivalent of true. If true, then system.out, obviously it's true because if it prints out that because it is true. So if this statement is true, then it will print out whatever is inside. Let's do something else. So let's assign this integer to x equals x equals 74 and y equals 84. So 10 apart, we are going to compare x equals y. Obviously they don't equal each other, so it would not print. But let's make it a condition. So else if, so this is like else else if x plus 10 equals y, then then you can print out x plus 10 equals y. So we can do yes it does. So we're looking for the yes it does and not it does, because it does not equal each other, but the plus 10 does. Right? 74 plus 10 equals 84. So let's run this, and you see yes it does, but not it does. So that is basically, you can do numbers. You can also compare strings, which is pretty easy. All you have to do is match each other. So for example, if I have string, my string equals hello, and we can just duplicate this, my string 1, so you can compare my string 1 and my string, it should equal true. So that's string comparison, but we are going to stick with numbers. So now you know that there's an else if function here that exists in Java. You can do else if, and you can also do some other operators. So we can explore with this. So we can say x is less than 74. So to do that, let me just delete this first. So to do that, we are going to use the less than symbol, which is this. X is less than equal to y. So we can do x uh, like that. So it should print this, um, and yeah, it'll just print x is less than y. We can also do x is not equal to y. So using that, we can do exclamation mark, and all that does is saying x does not equal y. So does not equal, which will also be true since they're not equal. Right? See, like that. X does not equal y. And finally, you can have the else statement, which is not, if nothing works, then you can do system.out dot like x is not defined or something like that. But that is the else statement, which is pretty simple. There are also some logical operators we can do. So we can do or statements. So or statements are defined by two vertical lines, and statements, two ampersands, and not, you saw not, which is the exclamation mark, which is not x or not y. So let's see, we can define a boolean, which is boolean high equals false, right? And we can do not high, and it should print x does not equal y, because not high, which is the opposite of false, is true, and we saw if true, it will print out whatever is in here. And yeah, it prints out x does not equal y. So that is basically if statements in a nutshell. We're all gonna talk about loops. So let us do this. So loops are pretty simple. First loop is while loop. So we can do we can set a number. So like I equals 1. And then we can say while I is less than 10. Do system dot out print line I, which is printing the number. Whoops, I don't know why that parentheses is out there. Alright. Print I and then I plus plus. Now, here's the deal with I plus plus. You have to put it there or else the while loop will never increment. It will just always print 1, 1, 1. Actually, it wouldn't print anything because it's saying while, yeah, it will print 1 forever because you're not adding anything. It will cause an infinite loop. So I plus plus is equal to I equals I plus 1. It will also equal to I plus equals 1. But I plus plus obviously is shorter than all of them. So this will increment, this will print from 1 to 9. Why 9? Because I is strictly less than 10, it will not print it. So let's print this here. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Not 10 because we add a less than or equal to, then it will print out 10. So let's run this. And look, 10 is printed. So that is while loops. Very, very simple. Now there's a inversion of a while loop called the do while loop. So a do while loop is actually the opposite. It will run whatever in here is first, and then it will check the condition. So 1 will be printed no matter what, the first time it goes around, and then next it will check the condition. So let's do a do while loop. So all we do, we move the while loop down here, and I believe we add a semicolon. Yep. So it'll print it'll print I no matter what. It'll add the I no matter what, and then it will check if I is less than or equal to 10. So let's run this. You can see everything is normal because we do have the 1 and 2. So, but we can do if I is less than or equal to 1. You can, actually if I is less than 1. Usually in a while loop, it will just stop. It will not print anything because it will check. There we go. I is 0. So the while loop is saying, okay, I is greater than 1. So let's change it to a 2 actually. I is greater than 1, we should stop running this. But in a do while loop, it should print out 2. Yes. Now, here, that's what I was saying here, because the do while loop does not like, it ignores the first time around, so it will print whatever it is in here, and then it'll check. So obviously 2 is greater than 1, but in a traditional while loop, it will just stop printing anything. Let me just show you here. We have while I is less than 1, which it is, and it should not print anything. So the result should be empty. And look at that. The result is empty because the do is gone and I is less than 1. So that is while loops and do loops. Now we're going to talk about for loops. For loops is another great loop, but this time it combines pretty much everything together. So we don't need to add a variable declaration outside. You can do that within the for loop. So all we have to do is for integer I equals some number. Let's do 1 again. And then what do you want I to go to? So we can do, oh, my mistake. I is equal to 1. I equal to, I is less than, equal to 10. And I plus plus. There, there we go. There we go. Eclipse was just having some issues there. But this is the equivalent as the while loop we did earlier. But instead of doing the I plus plus in the loop, it gives you a little feature here to do the I plus plus. So we can just do system.out.println. I like for loops because it literally combines everything. So it should print exactly the same as the other while loop, which it counts to 10. So let's do it. Wait that. Oh, I is less than or equal to. Sorry about that. That is supposed to be less than or equal to. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is for loops. For loops, you can also mess around. You can count backwards. All you have to do is type 10, and then I is less than or equal to 1. So just switch them. And then for this section, you want to type I minus minus. So that will make it count down from 10 to 1. Yeah, I messed up the operator signs again. So again, check your operator signs. I did less than or equal to, but it's supposed to be greater than or equal to. So my bad. Now it should count from 10 to 1. So that is for loops. And yeah, nothing much to say about that. We are going to move on to switch statements. So if you do not know, a switch statement is actually another type of if statement. So you define switch statements like so. Switch statements aren't really that hard, and yeah, so switch statements can come in a variety of ways. Most common switch statements are switch and case. So I will tell you how to do switch case. So you want to do this switch here. So you want to have basically a conditional that is met with the switch statement. So a switch statement, you want to do like switch. Okay, so let's do integer here. So let's type integer x. Let's do it 1 again. All right, and then we will be switching x by an order of 2. So all you have to do is type switch x plus 2. So it will just keep, it's kind of like a for loop and another loop mushed together. Let me see. Okay, and then you type it like so. Yep, and then so switch statement is also like a block. You have some cases here. Not sure how to explain the cases, but it's basically you basically want to have a case, and that was the conditional here. So switch, you have case 1, and then you want to do system.out.println line, case 1. And again, this case could be anything, but right now we're just making it print stuff. Case 2, system.out.println case 2. And case 3, system.out.println, case 3. And we also have a default, aka if none of the conditions in the cases meet, we can just do system.out.println default. There we go. And if we run this, as you can see, it prints out case 3. Why? Well, because x is 1, and 1 plus 2 is 3. It also print default because it'll print default no matter what, because that's the default case. But if we change this to 0, it should print out case 2 because 0 plus 2 equals 2. It will switch it between the case. And here's the deal with this. It will print case 2 starting from case 2. This is very important because you can see it also printed case 3 and default. Why is that? Well, that's because it starts from case 2. It'll just keep on printing cases that are greater than it. So you can see if we move default up here, it's usually a good idea to move default at the very beginning. So default, it will not print default, but it will still print case 2 and case 3 because it's kind of like a waterfall action. So case 2 and case 3, but no default because default is moved on top. And that's usually the recommended way. Put default on the top or else it will print default no matter what. So print default at the top, and then usually if you having this ascending order, you should actually move 3 to the top and 1 to the bottom. That way it will only print 2. But so far this setup is pretty good, and that's basically switch statements. So you can adjust this. You can do 2 plus 2, which is 4, but we don't have a case 4, so it just print default. And that's like that. And now the reason why it printed out all 3 cases, remember, it's not because it thinks it's all 3 cases. It started with default, which is what it's supposed to print. But then case 1, case 2, and case 3 are underneath default, so it automatically prints all of them. So how to fix this? You can type a break. It'll break out of the switch statement. That way it'll only print default and without, and it will print. So it's recommended to break out of your switch statements each time you have a case so that it doesn't run every single case underneath it. As you just saw, we can add a break and then it will just actually run this switch statement. That's pretty much switch statements. I'm trying to think what else we can cover here. We can't cover loops. I mean, not loops. Arrays yet. Arrays are another episode, and functions are also another episode. So I guess that is it for today's lesson. So we talked about if statements, some loops, and the switch statement. Switch statement is kind of obscure again, but I did show you the different types of switch statements and how each one of them worked, and now you'll know how to do all this, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.